These are the best uncommons and commons in the new Spider-Man and Through the Omenpaths set. And the context I want you to look at this is if you open your pack and you don't have a really good bomb rare that you can build your deck around, and you need to take some other cards that are not rares, obviously. So if you see any of these, you should probably take these and lean towards those colors. And stay to the end for my sleeper picks on what I think are the best other uncommons or commons that could probably increase in pick order as the format goes on. So first is Sudden Strike, which lets you destroy a target or attack blocking or creature for just 2 mana, which is such a good deal. Next is Spider Bite, Web Warden, or Arger, Tidal Spinner. This is basically a Mono War variant. It's a 3 mana 2/2 that bounces a creature, and it can get massive 2-for-1 potential, especially if you bounce something that has an aura on it, or it bounces something that's more expensive and gives you more tempo. And also keep in mind, you can return one of your own creatures if it has a really good ETB ability. Next is Tombstone, Career Criminal, or Nil, Vessel of Valgavoth. And this is basically a Gravedigger variant where it's a 3 mana 2/2, and when it ETBs, you can return a villain card from your graveyard to your hand, and all villains from this point onward will cost 1 less to cast. And one of the main creature types in black, and blue also, is villains. So there's a lot of villains in this set, so you can definitely get a 2-for-1 here. Next is the Spot's Portal, which is a 3 mana removal spell that puts a creature on the bottom of its library. And this is better than destroying a creature because then they can't recur it from the graveyard or doesn't trigger any of the die's abilities. And if you control a villain, you don't even lose 2 life. Next is Hero's Hangout, or Fire Brain Scheme. This is basically a 1 mana Impulse Draw for 2, which is just a crazy good rate, and you can play those cards until the end of your next turn. And because it only costs 1 mana, you'll definitely get to play both of them. And in a pinch, you can also just pump 2 creatures and give them +1/+0 and first strike so it can win combat. So just this card and the flexibility is just so great, and it gives you so much value for just 1 mana. Next is Molten Man, Inferno Incarnate, or the Infernus, which is a 3 mana 4/4 basically, because it lets you ramp yourself, search your library for a basic mountain card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Sure, you lose the land when this creature dies, but remember it's a 3 mana 4/4 that ramps you, or maybe sometimes fixes your mana, which is just a crazy rate and a good card. Next is Shocker Unshakable, or Kazu, Ruthless Rival, which is a 6 mana 5/5 with first strike on your turn, which is basically not the best thing for a 6 mana card, but it has massive 2-for-1 potential. Not only does it do 2 damage to your enemy's creature, but it also does 2 damage to their face, which can help pressure them if they're really low, can end the game. And if you play this after your combat phase, you may get to pick off a creature even if it has more than 2 toughness. Next is Superior Foes of Spider-Man, or Restless Razorkin. And I think this card actually is good. It's a pretty good vanilla card, so on rate, it's a 3 mana 3/3 with trample, and whenever you cast any card with mana value 4 or greater, you get to impulse draw. And there's going to be a lot of cards in your deck that are going to just naturally cost 4 mana. So this is going to naturally have to force a removal spell from your opponent. And also keep in mind that you get to play that card until you exile another card with this creature, so you don't even have to play it that turn, which obviously you won't be able to because you're playing an expensive 4 mana card. Next is Morbius the Living Vampire, or Tyrell, Entropic Hunger, and this card is a natural 2-for-1 built in, so it doesn't pass the vanilla test because it's a 4 mana 3/1 Flying Vigilance lifelink, but you get a lot of keywords for 4 mana, and most importantly, it's got lifelink. So worst case scenario, you can trade with something, gain 3 life, and kill it, hopefully. And also you can attack and then block with it because it's got vigilance. And then when it dies, which your opponent will have to kill it because it's got flying and lifelink, when it dies, you get to exile it from your graveyard and basically draw the best card in your top 3. Next is Rhino Barreling Brute, or Zikao, Predation's Shadow, and it's expensive. It's a 7 mana 6/7 with Vigilance, Trample, and Haste, but you're in green and red, which is all about ramping, and there's quite a few mana dorks in this set that can help you get to 7 mana. But most importantly, I love value, and this is a value card. As soon as it comes in and it attacks, you get to draw a card. Next is Rhino's Rampage, which is a sorcery fight spell that gives your creature +1 and +0. And then if you do extra damage, then you get to destroy a non-creature artifact with mana value 3 or less. So this is just a lot of value stapled on for a 1 mana fight spell. And it's green-red hybrid, which means you can play it in either deck, so it's just super flexible, and it's definitely worth taking early because it can go in multiple decks. Next is Kumontsu the Watchful, or SP/Doctor piloted by Penny. And this is very similar to Halia that we had in Edge of Eternities, but this card is just really good. It's 5 mana, 4/4 Vigilant, which doesn't necessarily pass the vanilla test, but when it enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on any creature. You can put it on itself, and then whenever a modified creature does damage to your opponent, you get to draw a card. So that could be maybe other creatures that you have, because blue-white, the whole theme of that color pair is making modified creatures. So this basically could draw you a card as soon as it comes down. Next is Spider-Man India, or Alessos and Pros Acrobats if you're playing on Arena. This card just could come in for cheaper because of web slinging, but also just every time you play a creature, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature and give it flying until end of turn. So this card is pretty busted. And then, of course, green-white's other uncommon is also really good. Spider-Girl, Legacy Hero, or Janai and Hoppy, Roof Skippers. This is a 2-mana, 2/2 with flying on your turn, and whenever it leaves the battlefield, so exiled, bounced, or dies, you get a 1/1 human. So this is just so much value for 2 mana. You get a 2/2 flyer and a 1/1 when it dies. Now let's talk about some of the best commons. So if you open any of these, you should definitely consider taking this if your uncommons or your rare is just not that good. So the first one is Web Up, which is basically Banishing Light, or Mothwing Shroud on Arena. Venom's Hunger, or Damning Caress, is one of my top commons. Now, if you pay 5 mana for this, it's not necessarily what makes it a good common, but it's because if you control a villain, this could literally only cost 3 mana to destroy any creature, and you get to gain 2 life. So imagine easier to cast Murder that also gains you life. That is just busted. And as I mentioned before, in black, there's a ton of villains, so you're going to naturally be able to do this quite often. Next is Scorpion Sting, the other really good common removal spell in black. Basically instant -3/-3. You can even use this as a combat trick if you need to, but this also trades up, which is what you want from your removal spells, which is being able to kill higher mana value cards for just 2 mana. Next is Shock, not surprising. It's just instant speed, deal 2, and you can even go to face to end the game. Electro's Bolt, or Death Flame Burst, is the other common removal spell in red. It's sorcery speed, deal 4, which is not the best, but you can even cheat it out with Mayhem, which is why it's in my top commons list, because as a sorcery, that kind of hurts it because you can't blow out combat tricks or do anything fancy on your opponent's turn. But if you could do this for 2 mana with Mayhem, then this is really crazy. Next is Guy in the Chair, or Eccentric Archaeologist, or Arcanologist. And this is a 3 mana dork, which is not the best rate, but it fixes your mana because it can do any color. And on top of that, in the late game, it has a mana sink. So this lets you put a +1/+1 counter on target spider. And there's a lot of spiders that's naturally running around in green. So you'll be able to use this ability in the late game, even if you can't cast other spells. Next is Kapow, or Perilous Lunge, which is green's fight spell this set at common, and puts a counter on it before you get to fight, which is always good. Next is Professional Wrestler, or Favored Fighter on Arena, and this is a really good card. I mean, it's a 4 mana, 4/4 that can't be blocked by multiple creatures, so it's going to almost always trade for another 4/4 or have to be blocked by something even bigger, which makes it difficult. And it gives you a treasure token, which helps you fix. And keep in mind, there's not a lot of good fixing in this format. And in the draft 2, pick 2 format, there's only 4 players in a pod, which means you're going to open less dual lands on average. So you can't count on that as your way of fixing. So Professional Wrestler gets to check that box for you. Next is Pumpkin Bombardment, or Knife Trick, because this is a cheap way to enable all of your Mayhem cards. And remember, you want your Mayhem or your discard outlets to be really cheap or free effects, because you need additional mana on your turn available to actually cast your Mayhem cards from the graveyard. So this is my pick for the best enablement in Mayhem, and it also just is a 1 mana removal spell, which is also good. Next is Spider Manifestation, or Leyline Weaver. This is an overstatted mana dork. It's a 2 mana, 2/2 with reach, and allows you to play red or green mana from it, and it has a hybrid mana cost, so it's super flexible. And whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, you get to untap this. So the dream scenario would be you play this on 2, and then on turn 3, you play your land, and then you can play a 4 drought on your turn 3, which is obviously great because you ramped it out, and then this will untap itself, which means you have 1 red mana available for Shock, or you have 1 green mana available for that pump spell. Now let's talk about my sleeper picks for some of the other best commons and uncommons. And my first one is Eerie Gravestone, just because it provides so much value. It's a 2 mana artifact that draws you a card, and when you're in black, you get to sacrifice this, mill 4 cards, which puts cards in your graveyard, which will help some of your synergy pieces, and you get to put a creature card from among them back to your hand. So this is a built-in 2-for-1, all for 4 mana. Next is Aunt May or Zora, Spider Fancier. This is a 1 mana 0/2, so not a very good card on the face of it, but this can create some crazy blowouts and really aggressive starts, because if you can play a spider creature card on turn 2 or turn 3, you get to put an additional counter on it. And keep in mind, you're going to be gaining life every single turn. So I think if you're in green-white, this is definitely going to be one of your early picks, and I think it's worth speculating on, especially since it has so much potential to snowball and end the game basically by turn 5. Next is Spectacular Tactics, and I think this is going to be a mandatory one of in every single white deck, no matter what you're in this format, just because it's so flexible. Number one, you can blow out removal or spells by putting a counter on something and giving it hexproof. You can also just use this as a straight up combat trick when your opponent is tapped out. And other than that, you can just trade up for this and you can kill really expensive big creatures for just 2 mana. So the flexibility on this is excellent. Next is Unstable Experiment. Now this one I think could be maybe Blue's best common, depending on how this format shakes up, just because you can potentially get a 3-for-1 here. So number one, right off bat, you get to just straight up draw a card, and then one of your creatures can connive. So if you use this as a combat trick, this is potentially a 2 or 3-for-1, because you draw your card when you cast this, then you make something connive, you can give it a +1/+1 counter, then also you're looting and improving the card quality of your hand, you're digging deeper into your deck, and there are some decks that care about having certain cards in your graveyard as well. So this is also a synergy piece. So this just has so much value, but it does require you to have a creature to get the maximum value, but that's why it's in my sleeper picks. Next is Sandman's Quicksand or Miasmic Mist. Now, there are not a lot of board wipes in this set. In fact, there's only 2 and they're both in black. So that means your opponents are probably not going to play around board wipes because the odds of you having them are super low. And that means this is going to increase as one of my sleeper picks, because if your opponents don't play around it, you can get a lot more blowouts. I'm not too sure how the gameplay is going to form out, because there's not a big token making theme. Like there's probably not going to be a +1/+1 creature token deck. And also, if you mayhem this, then keep in mind this only does -2/-2 to your opponent's side, and you can do this post combat as well. Next is Supportive Parents, which I think is going to be a key synergy piece for your green-white web slinging decks, because this is a free way to tap 2 of your creatures and get some kind of value from them without having you to play really terrible vehicles. And I don't think there's any good vehicles at common or uncommon that are worth playing in your deck. So this is going to be great because it's on fine vanilla, 3 mana, 3/3, and can help you fix and gives you an ability to trigger your web slinging without risking your creatures in combat. So those are my picks for the best commons and uncommons in Spider-Man and Through the Omenpaths set. But if you want to know what are the best rares that you should actually take in your pack 1 pick 1 and force and build around, you're going to want to watch this video right over here. And if I missed any of the other good commons or uncommons, please put them down in the comments, and that way we can help the whole community become better in this new format.